Welcome to the Couch Scout Sports Podcast, bringing you the latest news and scores from the world of sports. Here are your hosts, Noah Bowick and Anthony Bill.
All right, we are back with the Couch Scouts. Sports Podcast. Sorry for those waiting to watch the live stream, but I believe we're rolling now, Bills, which is always a good thing. Love technology. Yeah, thank you guys for being patient. You're here with the Couch Scouts, back with another episode. We got another good one for you, the NFC North. It's going to be one of the, I wouldn't say the toughest division to win this year, but it's definitely going to be up for grabs once again. So we're talking Bears, Lions, Vikings, and Packers. But first, thank you again, you guys, for watching, for tuning in on this Friday night. If you want to support the podcast, the best way to do that is subscribe to us on Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. It lets you know every time that we are going live, every time a new episode drops for you, so that you don't miss a beat, as we're about to get, hopefully, rolling into some football here in a couple weeks with the NFL draft. I know, Anthony, you're pumped about that.
Yeah.
But we had some breaking news last night, a trade in the NFL, the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Rams. Let's start with that, Anthony. And what was your first reaction when you saw the news of that, and kind of give us some details on the trade?
My first reaction was actually good move. I thought for Houston at first, until I realized that they gave up the second round pick that they got for DeAndre.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, oh man. Okay, so you basically traded DeAndre Hopkins for Brandin Cooks, David Johnson, and a fourth rounder now. I'm like, yeah, you probably, it didn't seem as smart, but I'm happy because Houston needed another receiver, because like we've talked about, we don't think you can really rely on Will Fuller to be your top guy. So if Brandin Cooks can stay healthy, him and Deshaun Watson, I feel like can be a very good combo. But Will Fuller, Brandin Cooks, it's just some guys that are really good deep threats. But other than that, it's like, I don't know, they're definitely not DeAndre. So it's just kind of, I'm just confused on what Houston's doing, So
yeah.
But I don't think they got worse from the trade,
Right.
We'll have another second round pick. So whether they'll probably not draft a wide receiver now, at least early. Whether they address offensive line or maybe tight end or maybe a running back, or defense. I don't know, but I like their chances better in the in the AFC South now, after we talked about it, last week or whatever. So
yeah. I think if anything, it a friend of mine tweeted last night. He said, after the DeAndre Hopkins trade, did you rank Deshaun Watson lower? And now after the acquisition of Brandin Cooks, does that change his status for you at all? And I felt like my first instinct when I saw the trade, I kind of had Patrick Mahomes, Lamar, Kyler Murray, and Dak, and then Deshaun. And I feel like I can't say it confidently like, oh, this puts him back ahead of Kyler Murray and Dak, but I feel like it just puts him pretty even with that group, giving him another weapon. And the fact that they do have another second round pick that they potentially could use on another weapon, after making the trade, I don't think that they will, but the fact that availability is open to them, I think it, like you said, it doesn't hurt them. It doesn't hurt them any, but it definitely helps them. Does it change your value for Watson, or had that changed at all for you after the Hopkins trade?
No, it's still pretty similar, because the reason we put Kyler in front of Watson was because of DeAndre, right?
Right.
And because of other weapons. So just because Brandin Cooks comes to Deshaun, it's still DeAndre with Kyler, still Amari with Dak, and I still have Russell Wilson right there as well. So it's in that, I don't think you can go wrong anywhere from that 3 to 6 range of Prescott, Murray, Watson, and Wilson.
Right.
I would put Wilson probably 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Flip a coin. So.
Yeah. And okay, and then on the other end, obviously you got to think that pairing Brandin Cooks with a quarterback like Deshaun Watson has definitely got to improve his stock. I mean, Jared Goff is a great quarterback. He's in a great offense there and thrived with the Los Angeles Rams. But what is your what do you expect? You know, you talked a little bit about Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, and now Brandin Cooks. To me, when I hear those three names, I kind of think of all three of the same players. You know, obviously they're on different levels. Cooks is the best out of the three, and he has the stats to show it. But do you see this working out long term for Brandin Cooks, because he has been shipped around all over the place his whole career? The Saints, Patriots, Rams. Do you think that this is a place that he can stay for multiple years?
I think so. Just because the contract, obviously they didn't want to. They still had a few years on DeAndre's, but he wanted a pay raise, so they were like, "Nah, screw it, shipping you out." So Brandin Cooks has a few years left, 81 mil.
Right.
They got from the Rams. So I would think he's going to at least play his contract out here. The only way I don't see that happening is if maybe somehow they do draft a wide receiver who actually comes in and looks like they're legit contender to take over and push Brandin Cooks like to a number 2 role.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't want to pay a number 2 guy this much, even though they're paying a number 4 guy like Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
27. So.
Yeah.
I think so. I think him and Deshaun are going to fit in very well together, because it kind of reminds me of him at Clemson. Brandin Cooks having a speedy receiver. They're like Sammy Watkins or something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you say there. I think it will definitely depend on that 40th pick. But if you were Bill O'Brien, and thank God that you're not, because I don't know if I'd be friends with you. But if you were Bill O'Brien, how now after making this move, how would you use the your second round pick, the 40th overall? I have an idea of what I would do, but I want to hear your opinion. What do you think the Texans should do?
Well, they could try to get another pass rusher to complement J.J. Watt, obviously, because they lost Clowney.
Right.
They need some secondary help. They could do that. I just, they're paying their receivers a lot of money right now, so I don't see them drafting a receiver.
Yeah.
Second round when they have other needs, now that they have a few receivers that they think they can rely on. So honestly, I think in that 40, I think it's the 40th pick, right?
Yeah, 40th overall.
Honestly, at that 40th pick, it's possible that somebody like Dobbins, Taylor, or Swift, if one of those three are still available,
yeah,
I'd be going all in on that.
Yeah.
And even if not, then possibly Cam Akers or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, one of these guys, because you can't rely on David Johnson to give you 16 games. And then obviously Duke Johnson is,
yeah,
so I would be looking at running back or defensive side, to be honest.
That's exactly the way that I was leaning as well. It's still yet to be seen what's the case is going to be with the running backs in the draft, but I mean, I know that they went and they acquired David Johnson's contract, but I just feel like, he's not going to give you a solid 3 years, so it wouldn't hurt you if one of those top 3 backs, Swift, Taylor, Dobbins, is available. Go and get him. But otherwise, yeah, defensive side of the ball. That's been their strength for a while. And last year, it seemed like they had to rely more on the offense. The defense was a little bit more inconsistent with the departure of Clowney. So I'm with you there. Getting J.J. Watt some help as he's also getting older, and maybe they go linebacker, maybe they go edge rusher, just to add some depth as well. But
yeah,
definitely interesting offseason for the Houston Texans and Texans fans.
Yeah, basically what we are saying and what we believe the Texans should do and need to do He's probably the exact opposite of what they would do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they do go reach for wide receiver,
Right.
like, stupidly anyway. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much the news going on right now. Obviously, sports are kind of canceled. For the moment being, we got the NFL draft still scheduled. I think there was at least 58 prospects that said that they're going to virtually engage in the draft and participate. So I heard today that this will be the first year that Roger Goodell does not get booed during the NFL draft. Um, and most like someone was like they should have like a little soundboard so he can play some applause for himself. But that's coming up in a couple weeks, and we got a good episode for that. But like you just said, Anthony, 20 minutes ago, you saw something about President Trump encouraging the MLB, the NBA, the NFL, all sports to prepare to resume play as soon as possible. So, at least for sports fans, that's really encouraging news. I know I honestly can't wait. I don't even turn the TV on at night anymore, or go on ESPN because it's like I'm just used to no sports, but it's not fun.
It's been a month, man.
Yeah.
A month today is when everything really shut down.
Yeah. It's been a
It's already been a month.
long, slow month.
Right.
But like we said, we have the NFC North on this episode. So we're talking Detroit Lions, we're talking Packers, Vikings, and Bears. Obviously,
Bears, oh my.
yeah, Lions, Tigers, and Bears. But obviously, the Packers were the winners of the 2019 NFC North division, and everything else was actually, I mean, the Vikings were in there in that wild card spot against the Seattle Seahawks, but for the Bears, coming off a really, really good season, definitely a down year in 2019, and even more, I guess, turmoil and controversy coming into 2020 at quarterback. And you look at that missed field goal that they had in, I think was it 2018 or 2017, the double doink.
Talking about
the Bears.
Oh, okay, sorry. I looked at my phone real quick and then I looked up and saw Lions, so I was like, they have quarterback controversy?
Oh,
Like,
no,
how am
no.
I seeing this? Okay, sorry, the Bears. Yeah, yes.
Was
2
that-
years ago.
Yeah, the double
Against the
doink.
Eagles.
And I mean, really, for Bears fans, that could have been a Super Bowl run if not for that field goal. And since then, everything has gone downhill. And then obviously the Lions, who we'll start with, lost Matt Stafford for 7, 8, 9 games last year, and he's recovering from an injury. Should be back, but again, just a down year again for the Lions. They had some good weapons, but it just seems like they can't keep the whole healthy. And even with the Vikings, Dalvin Cook going down late towards the end of the season, and that affected just their momentum going into the playoffs. Obviously, getting knocked out by the Seahawks. Or no, did they win a first round?
Vikings? Yeah, they beat the Saints.
That's right, beating the Saints and then losing to the Seahawks. So all in all, I mean, it was a good year. There wasn't any really, really poor records except for the Lions in 2019. But looking forward, if everyone stays healthy, it should be a good, very competitive division. But let's start with the Detroit Lions, Anthony, and we'll run through the 4 teams, and then we'll give our predictions for the division at the end of the year. But like we just said, Matthew Stafford, he was the quarterback 29, only playing in 8 games last year, but still threw for almost 2,500 yards, 64% completion percentage, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So, I mean, overall, the arm strength we know is there. I think it was a back injury that kept him out. But I mean, still to only play 8 games and finish as the quarterback 29, you got to think that he would have been up in that quarterback in the top 10 as far as fantasy quarterbacks go, had he been able to stay healthy. So we know he's the franchise quarterback, at least up to this point, unless the Lions do something crazy in the draft. But what does the return of Matthew Stafford mean for this offense as a whole?
It means a lot, because I mean, if you look we'll talk about them, but they have some very legit wide receivers. Not just fantasy wise, just NFL wise.
Right.
Um, and then T.J. Hawkinson is an up and coming stud. You know, Travis Kelsey, George Kittle tight end. So
Yeah.
um, it's going to be huge for them because Stafford is, he's been that guy for what 10 years now. I think he's very established. He's always up there in the top for fantasy. He's going to throw for 4,500 to 5,000 yards. He's going to get you, 30 plus touchdowns. The thing with him, sometimes I'm very surprised to see he only had 5 interceptions because sometimes he gets in that Phillip Rivers mode.
Right.
Stafford is very similar to Phillip Rivers in that aspect, but I love the return of Matt Stafford. I hope he can stay healthy because when Stafford's playing at the elite level that he can, it's fun to watch the Lions.
Yeah.
And it's really fun now that he has a legit wide receiver one in Kenny Galladay. So
Right.
it's gonna be huge.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, the Lions' offense has always been predicated around the passing game with Stafford, who has great arm talent. You look at the years with Calvin Johnson, where they had Golden Tate, and then drafting Kenny Galladay and bringing in Marvin Jones. They've had great receivers. Just it's kind of been other sides of the game for the Lions, but the
Right.
offense has always been fairly productive. And I think that Stafford has another big year in 2020, given the fact that he's healthy. I think for me, when I look at his ADP, I do wonder how many more years he has left in him. He's being taken as a 13th round pick right now, which for me feels a little bit high just in if it's a single quarterback league. Obviously he's been so consistent and he's always up there in the top 10 among fantasy quarterbacks just from passing yards and touchdowns alone. But I think for me personally, if I'm starting the dynasty league, I'm most likely going to pass on him in the 13th round. If he starts falling towards the maybe late 14th to 15th round, I think his value is a little bit better there. But yeah, definitely a great quarterback who's going to have a good 2020 season. And they did actually bring in another quarterback, Chase Daniel, who was the backup last year for the Bears. I don't suspect him getting any playing time unless there is an injury, but he's definitely an upgrade over their backups that they had in 2019. So if you are in, what did you say?
Jeff Driscoll, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Driscoll. So if you are in like a 2 quarterback league or super flex league, Chase Daniels definitely still has some value just with an aging quarterback who has suffered some injuries lately. But running back, Anthony, this was a running back that you had on your dynasty league last year, and unfortunately, again, he goes down with injury. But talk about, kind of break down the 3 running backs for the Detroit Lions and what can we actually expect out of their run game. Looking at their totals from last year, this was definitely a down year in the run department, and you can definitely see how this hurt their offense as a whole.
Yeah, Kerryon Johnson was he got hot, right before the injury, and that's why I got to sell him super high.
Right.
He was injured when I sold him, but I was trying to win, and I got a great return on him. Obviously, you know that, and
Yeah.
it helped me win it all. But when I look back at it, I'm like, man, I kind of wish I still had him, just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm going to have a big year. But dude, it helped me win a championship. I don't care. But yeah, he's if he can stay healthy, I really like Kerryon Johnson. He's a very, very underrated back.
Yeah.
Not in fantasy, obviously. A lot of people, they saw what he was doing. His numbers don't look that great right there, but like I said, a lot of those numbers were just in a couple games, couple weeks, where he finally like solidified himself. So I expect him to have a huge year if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
Bo Scarborough is, he might be worth a shot in that 20th round just because he's seen that ADP because you don't know if Kerryon Johnson will stay healthy.
Right.
You just never know with running backs. So I like their run game. I expect their run game to be a little better. Obviously, it's going to be better because Matt Stafford will be back.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to load up the box because Jeff Driscoll can't throw a pass, to complete. So I expect the run game to be good. They have some solid running backs here. Yeah.
Do you see the Lions dipping into the draft to get another running back?
I'd probably maybe late, but I would probably say no, just because all these guys are still fairly young.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, you might as well at least just run one more year with him and make sure Carryon is, legit running back for you for the future.
Yep.
And then if not, then there's, dude, you know how many guys we talked about that we're surprised they didn't come in the draft this year. They're going back for another year, like ETN and Hubbard.
Yeah.
So they can always come back to the running back position next year if they need to. So
yeah, that's very true.
They need to solidify that offensive line and the defense.
Yeah.
So many needs that have nothing to do with fantasy really. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think looking at the ADP, Ty Johnson wasn't on the ADP list, so he's a running back that if you're in dynasty leagues, you can check and see if he's available in free agency or available for trade. You can probably get him pretty cheap, but he was a guy that was thrown in there when Carryon went down, and a lot of people thought he was going to be the workhorse back, but really looked more to be that kind of third down receiving role. So I think that's what you can expect out of him. And Scarborough, I mean, I don't remember if he went undrafted last year, or he got signed by the Cowboys, but then moved to Detroit. But I mean, in 6 games, he showed that he is capable of a pretty good workload, and so I think that they'll definitely create some type of format where they can kind of get a 1-2 punch with Carryon and with Scarborough. But I think Johnson will definitely be involved if you just look at what the receiving capabilities are of Carryon Johnson and Scarborough. They don't really get targeted often, so I would expect to see Ty Johnson in there pretty often on third down. So definitely a fantasy valuable asset that you can hold on to, and if he gets hot, a guy that you can sell for some future picks. Like you said, the 21 draft class is looking pretty good. Let's move to wide receiver, and I'm just looking at these 3 names: Kenny Golladay, 65 receptions; Marvin Jones, 62 receptions; Amendola, 62 receptions. Actually a pretty well spread out receiving core, considering that Kenny Golladay is the clear number 1 wide receiver in that offense. But they actually put up some really good numbers, considering that Stafford missed the games that he did and that they were playing with Driscoll and some other backup quarterbacks as well. But Kenny Golladay at wide receiver 9 and still going late in the 3rd round, I really like his value there, especially 65 receptions, and he still went over 1,000 yards. I know he had a big Thanksgiving game. He had a big game against the Packers where he went over 100 yards, but the 11 touchdowns and being able to get that value in the 3rd round is great. Is Golladay a player that you like, and do you like his value there in the 3rd round?
Yeah, I had Golladay in one of my redraft leagues last year, and I had him, and I think Michael Thomas and Tyreek Hill maybe.
Yeah.
It was one of our leagues, with like 6 people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And yeah, I was blown away.
Right.
Every I would check, and I'm like, this dude, he just put up 30 points. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm honestly surprised he was wide receiver 9. I thought he would be higher than that.
Yeah.
But I guess it is the receptions. But yeah, I would expect his numbers to be very, very similar.
Yeah.
Maybe more catches, and I don't know if he'll have 11 touchdowns again.
Yeah.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised. But I would expect him to be very similar. His wide receiver 9 status will probably jump up a little bit. So yeah, if you can steal him 33rd in the 3rd round,
yeah,
it's a value, great pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think overall, I mean, the Lions have a great receiving core, so you kind of know what you're going to get with these 3. I'm not expecting the Lions to get a Jerry Jeudy, a Henry Ruggs, just because of the 3 solid names that they have. It wouldn't surprise me if they went and got another slot guy late in the draft, but I think all these 3 guys have pretty much got their starting roles intact. I think for me, Golladay, I would expect his reception total to increase. I think that's what, like you said, that was kind of why his wide receiver 9 number was what it was. 11 touchdowns is great. I'm going to guess somewhere in the 8 to 9 range for 2020, but that should balance out when you consider. I think he's going to be closer to a 75 to 80 reception guy in 2020. But Marvin Jones is another great receiver, and it seems like all this guy does is catch touchdowns. He's kind of, I feel like when I think of him, I think of Will Fuller, but just more so, not the speed, but just like all he does is catch touchdowns. And last year, another great year for him. He's put up, I think, 2 or 3 really great years with the Lions. But wide receiver 28, a 13th round draft pick, so you're still getting really, really good value for a player who he only played 13 games and caught 9 touchdowns. So you add 2 or 3 more games in there, and you could be looking at 70 receptions, 850 yards. You like Marvin Jones with the Lions? You like the fit?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's similar to when Golden Tate was there. He's legit, man. He catches everything that comes his way. He's very good. He's a great overall player. Like he's a perfect person to have in fantasy. You can slot him every week, and he's going to get you points. He isn't going to put up any duds. He's going to get you at least 4 or 5 catches, and then on top of that, you see that 9 touchdowns in 13 games. So
yeah,
he's on points on the scoreboard as well. So
yeah,
he's very, very good. Very, very, very sneaky pick too in the 13th round.
Right. All right, and then lastly, Danny Amendola, wide receiver 49. He actually had a few of those games that you talked about with Marvin Jones where he did go scoreless, and unfortunately that has kind of been what he's done throughout his career. I mean, he was great with the Patriots and then moved to Dolphins, moves to Detroit, but still finished as wide receiver 49. Obviously, the touchdowns weren't there, only scored 1, but you got to think that maybe he, with Stafford targeting him out of the slot more, that he's going to jump up into that 3-4 touchdown range, and I could see his receptions and receiving yards staying around the same. But a player that I'm definitely targeting in the 20th round, whereas the ADP is, and he's not an every week starter, but a player when you got guys on bye or when you need some points to slot in there. So I really like Amendola. I've liked him since he was with New England, and he might have some hot weeks and some cold weeks, but overall he's gonna be consistent if you need him with the depth. And then how about tight end TJ Hawkinson, who was supposed to be Gronkowski 2.0 last year, but only appeared in 12 games. Do you think that he rebounds in a big way in 2020, or do you feel like that the Lions might have missed on this guy?
No, I think he will. I think he'll rebound. I think he was dealing with, it might have been concussion issues last year, so that's why he missed a few games. It might have been something else, but I know he struggled just to find a niche because of the health. But he's going to, I think he will bounce back. The other thing, it just might be scary. Eric Ebron was supposed to be this big thing too. Maybe it's just a Detroit tight ends thing.
Yeah.
I hope not. Maybe it's a Matt Stafford thing, I hope not.
Yeah.
Because the talent with Hawkinson is there. So I know it's scary to see that his numbers, and then 8th round. I don't know if I want to reach for him in the 8th round.
Right.
But for me, for dynasty wise, I'd be all in on this guy. I personally like Noah Fant better. And I have Noah Fant. Maybe that's just my biased opinion, but also Noah Fant had production last year.
Right.
But I would expect Tyler Eifert. I would expect TJ Hawkinson to be like Tyler Eifert. That's why I have Tyler Eifert in my mind. So I like Hawkinson a lot. I don't think he's a bust. It was 1 year. Rookie year, some guys struggle their rookie year. Now it's his 2nd year. He's going to have Matt Stafford. I like him a lot this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think he bounces back as well. We'll actually talk about another tight end in the NFC North that I prefer over him, and in the same draft class. But I think getting Stafford back. I mean, Hawkinson's first game he blew up. He was huge, and that was with Stafford. So I think just a whole off season of getting healthy and getting that connection, getting back with your QB1, is going to be big for the Detroit Lions. But let's move on to the next team, who was third in the NFC, the Bears. Talk about Anthony, how thankful Kansas City Chiefs fans are for the Chicago Bears, but also talk about the quarterback. talk about the quarterback situation and how you think that competition is going to go here in the fall.
I think it's going to be Trubisky, and then it's just going to be, are you going to perform like you did 2 years ago, where it looked like you were up and coming, or are you going to perform like last year, where you look like Blake Bortles? So that's tough. I honestly think Trubisky's going to have a bounce back year. Okay, he's a number 2 pick, so yes, he's a bust as a number 2 pick, but I still think he can be a solid NFL quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised to see him turn it on and put out a Kirk Cousins type career,
Yeah.
I think he has talent. We've seen those flashes, and I think bringing in Nick Foles just puts pressure on his heels. Pressure can create diamonds. Let's see if it'll create one with Trubisky.
Wow.
So let's see. But I think Trubisky will. I think Trubisky will have a bounce back year.
Yeah.
I don't know about drafting him. I don't know if I want to risk that. But if I have a solid quarterback and I can get him as my backup quarterback or my number 2 quarterback in the 20th round, or it's just somebody that I have to play on a bye week, or if an injury happens, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'll also say this: if you are going to pick Trubisky, you also might want to slot Nick Foles on the bench.
Oh, 100%.
Might as well, because if Trubisky does get benched, then boom, at least you still have a starting quarterback. You pick Nick Foles in, and Nick Foles is going to at least be successful. So
yeah. In terms of if you're starting in a dynasty team, which would you choose Trubisky over Foles?
Yeah, because I think he's going to have more opportunity to be the Bears starter for the future than Nick Foles does.
Yeah, same.
I honestly think this trade for Nick Foles is just hey, we're putting pressure on you now. Secure the job, or we're going to put Foles in. So if I think Trubisky's going to secure the job, then I think Nick Foles is going to be out of Chicago in a year.
Yeah. Again. So.
Yeah,
I agree with all those points there. I like Trubisky. I like him for what he's done for the Packers, but I think he wins that role as well, and still finished as a top 30 quarterback 26 in 2019, 3,000 yards, 63% completion. Just the offensive efficiency wasn't there. 17 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, but he did use his legs a little bit. I think he had like 4 rushing touchdowns as well, so that definitely helped him out just in the quarterback rankings. But for me, when you look at Nick Foles, ADP, he's outside of the top 240 there, and Trubisky at 240. So if I'm drafting right now in a 2 quarterback league or a super flex league, I'm just going ahead and getting these guys both towards the end of the draft, because I know one of them is going to be the starter, and with a guy like Nick Foles, even if he doesn't win the job, like Anthony said, he's most likely going to get shipped somewhere else and get a shot at another role. So just 2 quarterbacks that you can get on the cheaper side, just because I guess the thought on them right now is pretty negative. But a guy that I'm not negative on is running back David Montgomery, who was a rookie last year out of Iowa State. Running back 24 right now, a 5th round draft pick in dynasty startups, which I think is a really good value for the clear. He does split with Tariq Cohen, but Tariq Cohen is more almost like a slot wide receiver / 3rd down running back. But anytime you can get a running back who's going to get plus 230 attempts in the 5th round, I think it's great. And I think he improves next year. 242 attempts, only 889 yards, and only 6 touchdowns. I definitely would expect to see the yardage and the touchdown totals increase and be somewhere up, either inside the top 20 or right at that threshold of like running back 20 in 2020. So what are your thoughts on Montgomery?
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think he'll have a little bit. He might have more carries. 242 is kind of a lot for a rookie, but I
Right.
feel like he might get some more. I expect him to get over 1,000 yards. Um, the one thing everybody loved about him coming out of college was his receiving ability. He
Yep.
was really good at that at Iowa State, and
Yep.
25 catches isn't bad, but I think he can improve on that. And the 0 touchdowns, obviously, a lot of that is on Mitch Trubisky. Um, but so I expect him. I think running back 24. I think he'll be up in the top 15. Um, but we'll see. I like Montgomery a lot, though. He definitely looks the part. He didn't bust last year. He was legit. So
Yeah.
I'd like to see his yards per carry maybe go up just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not horrible, but a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree there. Before we talk about Tariq Cohen, shout out to Sebi in the chat, owner of the Sebi podcast, one of our good friends on Instagram. If you guys aren't following him on Instagram, check him out, the Sebi podcast. They honestly have some of the best looking content that I see. Like every time I go through their Instagram stories, they're always on top of the news. I was actually I was on a walk the other day and thinking about this when the NBA season was going on. I felt like every night before bed I would scroll through their stories and they would have a highlight. They would have highlights of every single NBA game with the scores and like the top scores, and I miss that so much. It makes me miss the NBA. But Sebi Podcast, definitely gotta give them a shout out and give them a follow on Instagram if you're listening. But running back Tariq Cohen, Anthony, who finished as the running back 27 with 79 receptions, 3 receiving touchdowns. Do you feel like he finishes in the top 30 again in 2020, or is this kind of going to be the coming out party for David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen really takes the back seat?
No, I don't think Tariq Cohen will take a back seat. I think Tariq Cohen has a real chance to have a Darren Sproles like career.
Okay.
He's never the number one guy, but he's gonna get plenty of opportunities because of 3rd and 4. Are we gonna run? No, we're gonna put Cohen in. We're gonna throw him a little quick pass out of the backfield against the linebacker, get a first down.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, I don't. I would probably. I think maybe some more receiving touchdowns.
Yep.
But the reception right there, 79 catches, only 3 of them for touchdowns is a little like, come on. But again, like I said with Montgomery, a lot of that is just on Trubisky and
Exactly.
or whoever who's throwing them the ball. So
Yeah.
But I will say this: if Nick Foles ends up taking over the job, Tariq Cohen, I just see him going even because Nick Foles is used to that, with Darren Sproles in Philly,
right? Yep.
Sean McCoy even before. Well, I don't know if Foles. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
yeah, I think I agree with Anthony there. I think value-wise, he's a 10th round pick right now. I mean, that tells me that people are actually pretty high on him if he's going in the first 10 rounds of a dynasty startup. And like what Anthony said, if he does have a Darren Sproles type career, that means he's going to have value in any format. And definitely anytime you get a running back whose receptions are up there with, the Christian McCaffreys, the Austin Ecklers, that's a running back that you're going to want with that value. So, yeah, you might have just changed my opinion on Tariq Cohen, Anthony, with that. I was definitely not as positive, but after you said that the comparison with Tariq Cohen or with Darren Sproles, and now that I see the way that they did use him in the offense, it's clear that they're not trying to push him out of the picture for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, wide receivers. We got Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, and a couple other ones. Riley Ridley. Right, yeah, that was about it. Who was their third or second receiver that they just shipped off this year? Was it? I'm trying to remember his name. I want to say Taywan Taylor, but I felt like he was on Tennessee.
Wow. Who was it?
I forget.
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead and just continue.
Yeah. Anyways, so Allen Robinson, surprisingly finished as the wide receiver 8 in 2019. ADP of 39 overall, 4th round. Robinson's been in the league for quite a while. Started his career in Jacksonville, had a big year before tearing his ACL, but has now been really consistent with Chicago since arriving there. And I think the only thing that's keeping him outside of the top 6 wide receivers is the fact that he's been playing with a quarterback like Mitchell Trubisky. But 98 receptions in 2019. Over 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. I think that's definitely repeatable for him in 2020, especially if there is improved quarterback play at any level. And you'd love to see Robinson get. I'd love to see him get 100 receptions, but I think as the offense adapts, I think his yardage, if anything, is going to increase up over 1,300 yards. What's your take on Robinson, Anthony?
Yeah. Now that Cordero Patterson is gone.
There you go.
Let's. Yeah, no, I love Allen Robinson. Obviously, I remember him in the Big Ten with Penn State. Just knew, this dude's going to be a stud. Man, he put up some big games against Ohio State in his career.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you 100%. It's amazing that he, had 98 catches with the bad quarterback play that he had last year. But him and Trubisky definitely have a very good connection.
Yeah.
So obviously, if I'm going to say I expect Trubisky to step up and be better, then Allen Robinson is definitely going to benefit from that. And the fact that, Riley Ridley hasn't really stepped in. I know he's still young. He didn't really step into what they thought,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, not at all.
Early in his career yet. He still has a chance. But Anthony Miller is, he's okay, but they need one more. They need a little bit more help.
100%.
Until we see, we see if the Bears get that help, I think Allen Robinson's numbers are just gonna keep rising. It'll be very similar. So he's definitely. It's just like we said with the Galladay thing. If you can get him, in that 4th round, he's actually behind Galladay in the draft at ADP.
Yep.
Wow. I would probably. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. I don't know, Allen Robinson or Kenny Galladay. But I would probably go Allen Robinson if I'm being honest. If I can get Allen Robinson a couple picks later, so I can get somebody else in that Galladay spot. Yeah. So I'm all in on him. He's gonna have a big year, just like you're super high on Chris Godwin. I'm super high on this guy too.
Yeah.
Just skyrocket, maybe into the top 6 or 5.
Yeah. And Taylor Gabriel was the name that I was thinking of. That moved on. I couldn't not remember his name. I knew there was a Taylor in there somewhere. You just touched on Anthony Miller, and honestly, he was like a second half of the season surge player. I think it was towards the end of the season when the Bears kind of knew that they were out of it. Trubisky really just started targeting Miller. I think he had a couple games of like 9, 10, 11 receptions. So the 52 receptions, 656 yards was definitely not spread out over the course of the year, and I think that his ADP is fairly high. Teams were really, really high on him when he got drafted. What are you laughing about?
I'm sorry. I have our YouTube video pulled up and it's delayed, so I just saw my facial reaction to when my door got slammed. Myself. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Anthony Miller was a guy that people were really high on coming out of Memphis, but still he's shown a lot of inconsistencies over the course of his career, and definitely not a player that I'm comfortable spending an 11th round pick on when you look at some other players that you could be selecting at that position. But he'll definitely be in the mix. And then like you talked about, Riley Ridley, Javon Wims, you'd like to see them take another step. If you're in deep dynasty leagues, those are definitely some players that you could have on your taxi squad or have just sitting on your roster over the offseason as you see what the Bears are going to do. But this should definitely be a landing spot for one of those top 10 wide receivers in the draft. And then Jimmy Graham, who I didn't realize he was the tight end 21 with the Packers last year, but I guess he did have 38 receptions, 447 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I think when you see tight end 21, you're like, wow, that sounds pretty good. He was in the top 25, but when you look at what it requires to be in the top 25, 3 touchdowns, 38 receptions, not a whole lot. So I was surprised by that. He gets a 2-year deal with the Bears, and they still have Trey Burton, and they also signed Demetrius Harris, who was the tight end 44 with the Browns last year. If you had to choose one of the three, Anthony, Burton, Graham, or Harris, are you putting your money on one of them to succeed in this offense?
Honestly, I really like Demetrius Harris.
Yep.
I picked him up last year for a couple weeks when Njoku was down, and Harris, and then because Ricky Seals-Jones went down as well at tight end for the Browns, so Harris had to play a few games. And he actually, when Harris gets the opportunities, he can be productive as a tight end. And I think, obviously, I think Jimmy Graham, he has the ability, but he just, the last couple of years, he just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
He's declined so quick, and I feel like Demetrius Harris just might have a chance to thrive, and Trey Burton has never been what everyone thought he would be.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying to pick Demetrius Harris over Jimmy Graham. I'm just saying, me personally, I like Demetrius Harris.
Yeah.
And if I had to choose, I don't know what the ADP is on Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, they're both outside of the top.
He might have been getting picked.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they're both outside of the 20th round.
Got you. So I would probably just pick Demetrius Harris for me, to be honest, because I believe he's younger.
Yep.
And he might have more opportunities in
Yeah.
the future. So, but I would probably just stay away from all of them, to be honest, unless I absolutely had to pick one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you have to play 2 tight ends, they're worth picking up. I think Jimmy Graham just got in a pretty bad situation with the Packers, and his speed is obviously not there anymore. He still has great hands, but the Packers were lining him up outside of the line of scrimmage at times in the slot, and it wasn't what it was when he was with New Orleans and with Seattle. It's just the balance and the speed is not there, and the explosiveness. So I think he'll have a similar season with the Bears. I don't expect him to decline with the Bears. I think he fits a little bit better in what they want to do in the offense. But what most people might not know is that when Matt Nagy was with the Chiefs is also when Demetrius Harris was with the Chiefs behind Travis Kelce. And I think Nagy sees something in him and wants to bring him in as that backup role. I think that Trey Burton's days are done, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that Harris has some kind of connection with Nagy, and I would agree. I would take Harris over Jimmy Graham, especially in dynasty leagues, younger.
I know that. Nice.
All right. How about the Minnesota Vikings? Kirk Cousins at quarterback. Not a whole lot to talk about as far as the quarterback competition goes. They extend him another couple years. Again, thank you from the Green Bay Packers fan club for extending him, but finished as quarterback 18 last year, ADP of 176, so 15th round pick in startup leagues, which I'm okay with. 3,600 yards, almost 70% passing completion, 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So overall, in 2019, Kirk Cousins had a really productive year. You think back to the beginning of the season, and what the Vikings weren't doing was throwing the ball. If you remember, it was like Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs were almost droppable in redraft leagues, and you knew there was going to be some kind of bounce back, but they were just really sold out on the run game. So I was impressed to see that he still finished inside the top 20, and I think with a value of 176 or an ADP value of 176, I think that Kirk Cousins is pretty good at that spot. And you look, 70% completion. That's great when you also have a running back like Dalvin Cook. Are you a Kirk Cousins truther, Anthony? Do you think
I'm not what?
Are you a Kirk Cousins truther? Do you think that they do believe in him?
Probably. For fantasy,
just overall.
For fantasy, I wouldn't mind it, but overall, no, not at all. I mean, we know what Kirk Cousins is. He's been like this his whole career. I mean, the 26-6 is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. That's a very solid year.
Yeah.
And that's going to help you in fantasy because you're not losing points from interceptions. But I don't know if he's going to. I think he's going to copy that. He lost his. I'm going to be honest. He lost his best weapon, wide receiver wise.
Yep.
Like Adam Thielen, but Stephon Diggs is way more talented. I'm just going to keep it real.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would disagree. Maybe they would, but I would. I think he's going to regress. I think Minnesota's going to regress actually a little bit. But
Okay.
so yeah, as far as Kirk Cousins, I mean, I guess if you get him 15th round, it's good value there. But I just
Yeah.
don't think he's going to put up the same numbers he put up last year.
Okay.
Touchdowns maybe around the same, but probably not. And the interceptions I think will definitely increase. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like Kirk Cousins as a fantasy quarterback. I'm thinking back to a question we got a couple weeks ago about owning I think someone asked if they owned the second and third pick in a two quarterback league, and they had Kirk Cousins and Bridgewater. Looking at these numbers, I'm like, okay, you got it now. You have a starting quarterback in Bridgewater, and you have a starting quarterback in Cousins. Still would be nice to get a rookie backup, but I mean, looking at those numbers from a fantasy perspective, that's got to be a pretty decent year for you if you play in a two quarterback league. If you're playing in a single quarterback league, I would like to have a guy that's going to be in the top 15, but still pretty consistent numbers, being quarterback 18. And then, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's just like it's honestly, it's very similar to like having Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna get. He's never going to give you MVP numbers or one of those top 5, top 10. Maybe sometimes he'll sneak up there close to around that, but it's never going to be. So I mean, if you get him, you know what you're getting, which is sometimes it's a good thing to have. If you know that you're going to get a consistent 15 points every week or whatever from Cousins,
Yeah. Okay, how about the running back position? Obviously, unfortunately, Dalvin Cook did everyone wrong at the end of the season and couldn't finish out the season, so he only appeared in 14 games and wasn't able to give it a go towards the end of the season, which was a bummer, but still finished as the running back 6. He's still a consensus first-round draft pick in startup leagues, going somewhere in between Alvin Kamara and
Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas. But he put up really consistent numbers, and the 53 receptions I think is a great, a really good statistic to look at, and just the way that they use him. But you do have to be concerned about the health issues, because it seems like he's never been able to stay healthy for a full season. He had that really strong rookie year, then tore his ACL, comes back, kind of the Adrian Peterson type story. But you just have to wonder how long they can keep using him, giving him 250 carries and 53 receptions with him being able to stay healthy. And there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than owning a star running back and not being able to have him for fantasy playoffs. I can tell you that from way too much experience. But how do you see the Vikings backfield? Do they need to make some changes, or you like the 3 weapons that they have there?
I don't like Madison and Boone as much. I love Dalvin Cook, but I would like to see them maybe go get the other Florida State back or something, to back him up.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I guess Madison, 4.6 yards a carry.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
No.
He can get in the end zone.
Right.
1 touchdown every 100 carries. So, I mean, if you think about it, if you put up 250 attempts like Cook, it's only 2.5 touchdowns.
Touchdowns, yeah.
You don't bring the points, Mike Boone, half the carries that Madison had, and he had 3 touchdowns. So,
right.
I probably like Mike Boone over Madison just for that aspect.
Yep.
If you're looking at backup running backs, but Dalvin Cook, I don't know if I would. I don't know if I'm sitting there with that 6th or 7th pick and Dalvin Cook is there, and Alvin Kamara is there, and Michael Thomas is there, and like Julio. I probably won't take Dalvin Cook just because of that injury history.
Yeah.
I probably would flip it with Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Because Michael Thomas never hurt. So it's just scary because, like you said, you don't want to get burned, man. You don't want to be, a number one seed, then all of a sudden at the end of the year, your number one player is down. He's hurt. Um, and that's kind of how Minnesota runs their offense, man. That's how Zimmer runs that offense,
Yeah.
They like to run the ball. So it's rough. I love Dalvin Cook. Talented. He's a top 5 fantasy running back, 100% if he's healthy.
Yeah.
It's just the health thing scares me.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think, we had a conversation about Devontae Adams a couple episodes ago, and he's we're going to talk about him shortly here, but he's in that same spot as Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams, and I'm thinking, who would I rather own? They're both injury prone, but also both completely the stars of their offense. I think if it were me, I would still go Dalvin Cook. If I had to choose between the two, just because of the value for him at running back. But yeah, I think right now I'm probably not buying a whole lot of shares in Dalvin Cook. I'll definitely be getting in a Madison and a Mike Boone if I can get them late. Maybe not in the 10th round if Madison drops to the 11th or 12th. I'll give him a shot there. But I think there's some other running backs that you can get that might prove of better value. And I think, like you said, Madison just wasn't efficient as far as the touchdowns go. 4.6 yards per carry is great, but you got to put it in the end zone if you want to be fantasy relevant, especially in a PPR league where he wasn't getting one reception a game. So Dalvin Cook is the clear running back to own in the offense as long as he stays healthy. And then at receiver, like you said, Kirk Cousins loses arguably his best weapon in Stephon Diggs. He's got an aging Adam Thielen. I think he's 31 or 32 heading into 2020, and was injured for most of the season last year, almost missed half the year. Appeared in 10 games, still scored 6 touchdowns. But you got to think that the Vikings are going to get at least one of these rookie receivers in this class, which is looking like one of the best receiving classes in a while. Because when you look at names like Tajay Sharp, Chad Beebe, Olabisi Johnson, you got to get Kirk Cousins some different weapons now that Stephon Diggs has departed, and they do get that first round pick next year, so that could be another weapon as well. But as far as this year goes, is there a wide receiver in mind that you think fills that Stephon Diggs role?
Oh yeah, CeeDee Lamb. 100%. He's just like Stephon Diggs. Actually, just probably more physical though.
Yeah.
But he's very similar. If you watch their college tape, it's very similar. But I don't know if they would get if they would get them. So if we're looking maybe at a if Justin Jefferson falls, or maybe the guys that you've highlighted like Jalen Reagor.
Yep.
Or Denzel Mims.
Mims, yep.
Yeah, one of those guys possibly. I like those guys, but we'll see. I think Adam Thielen reminds me a lot of Jordy Nelson.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be the clear-cut number one. Like, he was 1B, 1A, 1B with Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
It's clear to be him now. So
Yeah.
we know he's going to have the lockdown corner on him at all times. So we'll see if he's still productive. I think he will be. I think his numbers will inflate if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
It'll just be interesting to see. So they definitely have to get another weapon just to free him up a little bit, because Stephon Diggs, let's be honest, if the Vikings are playing against the Rams with Jalen Ramsey, who do you think Jalen Ramsey's defending? Adam Thielen or Stephon Diggs?
Yeah.
Probably Stephon Diggs. So
Diggs,
Thielen's going to have some numbers, So they've got to help him out for sure. I'm 100% with you. I like Thielen's value at 70, in that 6th round.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going to be better than wide receiver 64 because of the names. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft.
Yeah.
Obviously. But
Yeah, I think
like Thielen a lot.
I think a guy like I'd like to see like Justin Jefferson, go there. A guy like, I mean, even like a Henry Ruggs, I think would be a good fit in their offense. But I mean, like you said, I think Thielen's a great value in this 6th round, late 7th round, and also, I mean, any of these 3 wide receivers, they don't jump off the page to you. But I think Olabisi Johnson, you can get him in the 20th round, and he had 31 receptions and 3 touchdowns last year. I think he either played in 13 games or he did play in all 16. I can't remember. But either way, if I had to choose of those 3 names, I would go Johnson, and specifically just because you can get him at the end of drafts, and he could slot in as that 3rd wide receiver alongside a rookie and Adam Thielen. But at the tight end position, so I actually, when I made that comment about a tight end that I would rather have over T.J. Hawkinson, I realized there's actually probably 2 tight ends that I'd rather have right now in this division, and the one is on the Packers, but Irv Smith Jr. is definitely a tight end that I'm targeting. In the 13th round, 36 receptions last year, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns. He reminds me kind of the situation with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, where you have Zach Ertz as the clear tight end 1, but you see this up-and-coming tight end who is very similar, and they're trying to find ways to get him on the field. And that was Irv Smith Jr. last year, even though Kyle Rudolph had a surge in 2019, finished as the tight end 14, 6 touchdowns. Really the only difference between the two was the touchdowns that Kyle Rudolph had 6 touchdowns and Irv Smith Jr. only had 2. But I think if you go in and if you do some research and look at the snap count, Irv Smith Jr. was on the field way less, but when he was on the field, his production was much higher. Rudolph was the tight end 1 on there in most passing downs and in run plays, but when Irv Smith Jr. was on the field, they're targeting him. So I really like him in dynasty leagues, just what he did as a rookie, and honestly, he surprised me as a rookie because he was pretty raw coming into the NFL. Super freak, super athletic, but he proved to fit into the Viking system really well. Any comments on these 2 tight ends, Anthony?
Sorry, I was muted. The talk and this thing came up and said, "You are muted." I love Irv Smith. I just remember watching him a lot at Bama, and that dude is a freak athlete. He runs like a wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's a lot like O.J. Howard, but honestly with more athletic ability, which is crazy because O.J. Howard is an athletic freak too.
Yep.
But yeah, he was just a typical rookie, raw, like you said, learning the playbook, which is why a lot of red zone opportunities went to Kyle Rudolph and not him. And I think that'll change this year. I expect Irv Smith to pop like huge. Like him and Noah Fant are clearly they're going to be the 2 best, definitely over Hawkinson.
Yeah.
I think the Lions are going to look back and be like, man, we got this one wrong. But I expect Irv Smith this year to kind of have like a Darren Waller type season.
Okay. Yeah.
With that like Waller had last year. So
yeah.
13th round, dude. You're getting a future tight end 1 and a potential tight end 1 this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Especially the departure of Stephon Diggs, like we said. So Irv Smith is going to get more targets because Stephon Diggs is gone.
Yeah. I mean, really the only difference between Kyle Rudolph being the tight end 14 and Jimmy Graham being the tight end 21 was three more touchdowns. And you look at the upside of Irv Smith, even though you're going to be paying a lot more for him in the 13th round versus the 20th round. He's got his whole career ahead of him. This could be Rudolph's last year, or he might have 2 left in him. But this is, I mean, for fantasy purposes, I'll take the 36 receptions and 2 touchdowns over 6 touchdowns, knowing that I'm going to have him for years to come. So definitely don't sleep on Irv Smith Jr. from the tight end position, or I mean, really any of these tight ends are going to be good because they do get utilized well in this division. But let's wrap.
Before we move on, I have a question. Sorry,
yes.
I'm about to go on the Packers, but I wanted to ask a question. So, if you are a Dalvin Cook owner, would you sell him right now? Or would you keep him? Because you are a Dalvin Cook owner, actually, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Would you be looking to sell him for, some draft picks, some first rounders this year or future, or maybe another player, or package for a couple, just because of what we talked about and his potential injuries and
Yeah.
screwing you in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Or do you roll another year?
Gosh, honestly, when I'm looking at this Packer lineup right now, and thinking that Dalvin Cook's going
Aaron
first
Jones.
round, and you got Aaron Jones in the second round, if an owner was willing to do an even swap, at this point, I would take Aaron Jones. Finished as the running back 2. I would take him if I would take him straight up in trade for Dalvin Cook. I think for me, it's more so what we're seeing from the NFL. Me and you have been talking about Zeke's contract and how he technically could be one of the last running backs to get one of these big contracts. And there's questions about Alvin Kamara coming up in a contract year.
McCaffrey will get one, and that's probably it.
Yeah, McCaffrey will, but Dalvin Cook's coming up there, and I don't think that the Vikings are going to give him that contract. And just for that reason alone, just the way that the NFL is handling running backs, I would be more than happy to sell Dalvin Cook right now. And just for me personally in my own rankings,
Yeah.
I have him closer ranked to Aaron Jones than their ADP suggests. There's about 10 players in between the two. But, running backs are so valuable, and you see what Aaron Jones did last year, 49 receptions, 16 touchdowns. I love what he means to that offense, and I'm just a little bit hesitant on Dalvin Cook, especially coming up to a contract year. So
yeah, makes sense.
That's my thoughts.
Okay.
You got Aaron Jones?
What's up?
Do you have Aaron Jones? You want to trade?
No, I don't have him. I would trade him though.
Yeah.
I would be.
All right, let's wrap this up with the NFC North champions.
We need that back. That's when Aaron Rodgers was the best.
Oh yeah.
Through those commercials, we need them commercials to come back. I'm
That's
missing Rodgers playing like MVP.
That's when the State Farm commercials were actually funny.
Yeah, not Chris Paul and Cliff Paul.
Yeah, or whoever that agent is. Oh, Oscar from The Office.
Yeah. Oscar. Yeah. All right.
But yeah, so the NFC North champion Packers and Aaron Rodgers, despite all the criticism, this isn't me being biased or having any type of homerism, but despite all the criticism of what he did last year, I pulled up some stats and saw that he finished as the QB 10 in 2019, over 4,000 yards. His completion percentage was definitely down 62%, but he still threw 24 touchdowns and only threw 4 interceptions. So that to me is definitely QB 10 type numbers. I think the only thing that was down was really the total touchdowns, which would have vaulted him into the top 7 quarterbacks there. And I think that, I'm still happy getting Aaron Rodgers in the 10th round and him putting up QB 10 numbers, no problem whatsoever. Because I know that you still have, especially in dynasty leagues, I wish I could. I might pull up a stat here in a second because I'm doing a mock draft, and I'm not even kidding you. I think Aaron Rodgers fell to me like in the 12th or 13th round.
Steal.
And I'm like, absolutely no problem taking him there because I know he's got 2 or 3 good years left in him, and if he's putting up QB 10 numbers for me at that value, 100% every time. So, Anthony, do you think that he improves in 2020, or is this kind of what we should get used to? He is getting older.
No.
There's no denying that, but should we get used to the 24 touchdowns, 62% completion percentage?
No, because I think they're going to add a weapon. They're going to add a receiver. Dude, he's throwing to freaking Allen, Lazard, whatever. Freaking Scantling. I'm like, dude, he had nobody to throw to other than Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams was out for 4 games. So, in a lot of those games, the Packers, dude, with what Aaron Jones did, even Rodgers said it, he's like, I don't have to throw. to win right now. So
Right.
why would I?
Yeah.
So he kind of just was like, dude, why do it?
Right.
Um, I think his numbers will increase. The yardage, it's always going to be over 4,000 yards with Rodgers. I think he'll get back to the 30 touchdown range. His interceptions are always down. That's the thing. That's why he's one of the best. Um, he's his completion percentage should go up because he's not going to be throwing to, uh, Philadelphia Eagles type wide receivers. He's going to have Devontae Adams back, hopefully healthy. They're going to draft someone, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
He has an up and coming stud tight end who is going to be on the field and not Jimmy Graham.
Yep.
I love Aaron Rodgers, man. Trust me, if you can get him in the 10th round, if I can get him in the 10th round, I'll take him. I love Aaron Rodgers, dude. I draft that dude every year that I can in redraft leagues. So he's one of my favorites. I mean, I know it's funny. You love Dak on my team, and I love
that's
Rodgers.
true.
Not
That's
that
true.
you don't love Rodgers,
Yeah.
but it's like I sit there and I just watch him, and I'm like, if Aaron Rodgers was on the Cowboys for the last 12 years, I think we would have won 3 Super Bowls
Yeah.
at least. And I mean, and he's got one with you guys.
Yeah.
He should have a couple more, but just things haven't went that way. But I love Rodgers.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think he's gonna bounce back, and thankfully they are surrounding him with better weapons where he doesn't have to have the 40 touchdown years. But from a fantasy perspective, you'd like to see it. But I mean, you still know he's gonna be a top 15 quarterback the rest of his career. He's like a Brady in that perspective. He's, no matter how old he gets, he's always going to be in that top 15, if not better. And I did look. I got him in a draft this month at the 6th pick in the 12th round. So if that was even my starting quarterback, I would have no problem taking him in the 12th round, knowing that I have at least 2 years to draft another draft or trade for another quarterback. So
right.
If you're in a single quarterback league in dynasty, there's no, I mean, other than Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, there's no reason to buy early on quarterbacks, because you can wait and get some great guys and then trade up when you need to. But enough about that. Let's talk about the running back situation. We mentioned Aaron Jones was the running back 2 in PPR leagues. He's a second round draft pick with a 17.83 ADP. 236 attempts last year, just over 1,000 yards, but that 4.6 yards per carry, 16 touchdowns, and 49 receptions and 3 touchdowns. So 19 total touchdowns. I think he broke a Packers running back record with that. I love Aaron Jones. I really do. I think there's way too much hype in fantasy terms right now going into 2020, just because he did almost score 20 touchdowns. I think people are like, oh, he's the next Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to say pump the brakes on that, but I don't think there's any reasons that the Packers would not use him the same way that they did in 2019. And I know Matt LaFleur has said, we might go into the draft and get another running back to make it even deeper, but they're not, don't think that they're going to be dipping into Cam Akers or J.K. Dobbins. It's going to be a late round, 4th, 5th round running back, just to get some depth. But they have great depth at Jamal Williams, and they drafted a rookie last year, Dexter Williams, who he was injured most of the year, so didn't get on the field. So I think the running back situation for the first time in a long time looks pretty solid for the Packers.
Yeah. Since Amon Green?
Yeah. Since Eddie Lacy's rookie year.
Yeah. No, I like Aaron Jones a lot. I don't know if we're gonna see RB2 numbers again.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. But the ADP at 17, it's great value. For a guy that can potentially put up 20 touchdowns for you. I definitely. I'm not as sold on him because it's just 1 year, and we've seen 1 year, one hit wonders with running backs so many times. 17th, yes, I love that. Second round, yes. I just don't know if we're going to see a top 5 running back performance from him again, with all these other backs that are going to be healthy again. Melvin Gordon's going to have a full season. more than likely.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley's in a new spot. So I see him taking a step back a little bit, but I could see very similar numbers. The attempts, the yardage, touchdowns, maybe not 16 rushing touchdowns again.
Yeah.
But I definitely see double digit. But I think with Rodgers completing the ball to him 50 times, that's great. 50 receptions is good. I think he can increase on that even more.
Yeah.
So I would see maybe the rushing attempts be around the same, maybe a little lower, but the receptions going up. The rushing touchdowns going down, but the receiving touchdowns going up.
Yeah.
So even though he might not be a running back too, just because I think so many other backs are going to have great years just like him, he's still going to put up very similar numbers.
Yeah.
So he's great value wherever you get him, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's going to be inside that top 6, top 7 running backs in 2020. And even their second option, Jamal Williams, a 17th round draft pick, he's proven to be able to carry a workload as well. Obviously, the rushing touchdowns weren't there because Aaron Jones pretty much got all of them, but he still got 39 receptions and 5 touchdowns, and he's no slouch. The Packers like to use him. He's not just a spell running back. He gets in on a lot of sets. So a player that I definitely am targeting. I think I sold him last year before kind of seeing what his role was going to be, but I wish I had him back now, seeing that I could have in startups that he's a 17th round value and still put up some good points. A top 35 running back and still being able to get him in the 17th round is great value. And we touched on Dexter Williams as well. If you're in a deep dynasty league, definitely a player to own, just because he is a running back and the value is high on fantasy running backs. So, and you never know, with guys like this. So let's talk. We've talked a lot about Davante Adams the last couple episodes, but the receiving situation, like you touched on, Allen Lazard, Valdez Scantling, they got Devin Funches, as I call him. What'd you call him? Funyuns, Devin Funyuns. Jake Kumaro and Equinemius St. Brown, which is a heck of a name, but honestly,
you guys like that.
Yeah.
I like doing that.
Yeah. So Davante Adams, it speaks for itself. I mean, he had a down year last year. He only appeared in 12 games, so he missed 4, but still put up 83 receptions, 997 yards, 5 touchdowns. I think obviously if he would have stayed healthy, he had the turf toe injury. If he would have stayed healthy, I think you definitely see him close to 100 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and maybe in that 7 to 8 touchdowns. We talked about his value in the first round. It's questionable because of the injury issues, but if you're most likely drafting at the 108 and then you're going to come back around and draft at the 204, you can get a guy like Davante Adams and then come back around, get a Melvin Gordon and pair that up. So I think I like Davante Adams a lot, but as far as the other wide receivers go, I think they signed Devin Funchess out of hope that he can replicate what he did for 1 year with Cam Newton and the Panthers, or he scored, I think it was like 8 touchdowns. But in my opinion, Allen Lazard is good, but I would not say great. And I think that given a full offseason to get healthy, I really like Equinemius St. Brown. They loved him when he was a rookie, and then he got injured, just couldn't get back on the field in 2019. So I like him if you have a deep dynasty league and he's available, and just go ahead and add him over the offseason and see what the Packers do. See, keep an eye on the OTAs and training camp and what he's able to do. And but definitely the Packers are going to go get hopefully a Justin Jefferson, a Jalen Reagor, someone like that to add some depth. A Mims, I've seen Denzel Mims as well, just to give Rodgers one more option.
Yeah. I would like to see them trade up and get one of the top ones, man, to be honest, because I feel like you gotta oversell right now while you have Rodgers before it's too late.
Yeah.
I'm just, I mean, if I have to, they don't have that many holes to fill. Their number one hole to fill right now is wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're looking at all these draft experts, everybody's saying their top holes to fill are wide receiver, tight end. Okay, well, we think Jay Sternberger, sorry. I'm thinking of Jake Sternberger from Ohio State.
Yes.
we'll talk about him in a minute. We think he's going to be their tight end one. He's going to be set. So
Yeah.
if receiver is clearly your number one need to help Devontae Adams, man, why not package, maybe a couple later round picks to move up move up in that top 15, top 20 range. There's always teams that are looking to sell and go back, and go get you a CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy or Ruggs, Jefferson or Higgins, one of those five.
Right.
Because I don't think all five of those guys are going to last to the 30. What, they got the 30th pick, 29th, something like that?
Yeah, I think 29th.
I don't think they're going to last. It's possible, but I think if, Lamb, Judy, Ruggs, if those three are going around 20, I think you got to start looking like, okay, we have 9 teams in front of us that are going to take Jefferson or Higgins here. We got to move up right here.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion, because I'm going to be honest, I think Justin Jefferson or T. Higgins would be perfect here for you guys. And I would love to see that happen.
Yeah.
But yes, Lazard, definitely. Wow. Sorry, Lord is slim again. I like Lazard, like you said, in a deep league, go after him. But
yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's good. I agree wholeheartedly on that. And honestly, I wish the Packers trade up every time. And I think literally the 1 year that they traded, it was when T.J. Watt got selected. They had a chance to get T.J. Watt, and they passed on him, and they went and got Rashawn Gary. And I'm just kicking myself.
He's been kind of a bust so far.
I'm still kicking myself. T.J. Watt could have been the MVP last year on defense. But let's finish it up with at the tight end position. Jay Sternberger, a guy that honestly I love, and if you're in dynasty leagues, go get him, because he's available. Honestly, if you've been playing in dynasty for a while, he might be available in your free agency, in your waiver wire. If you're in a startup, you can still get him at the 17th round, and he's gonna be, unless the Packers do something where they go and draft a tight end, I think he's still gonna get his fair share of snaps and targets for the Packers offense. There's rumors that they need to draft a tight end, but they have Sternberger, they have Robert Tonyan, and they have Mercedes Lewis, 2 veterans, and then a rising rookie who is a freak out of Texas A&M, has great speed, and honestly is what the Packers have needed at tight end for the last couple of years. He's reminds me a lot of what Jermichael Finley was for the Packers years ago. Just a really, really good receiving tight end with great speed that can go down the field, and almost act what they needed Jimmy Graham to be, is kind of like that slot tight end, versus that traditional lined up on the line of scrimmage tight end. So 17th round is great value if he's going to be the starting tight end. I love him. I don't know if you feel the same way, Anthony, or want to add anything about him, but I think he's great.
Yeah, no, the potential's there. I know he was very high on a lot of people's boards last year for the NFL draft. So
yeah,
now opportunity's there. He's had a year to sit, back, and Rodgers has shown a lot of success in the past with some tight ends. So he has a legit talent here. And it'll be interesting. I think that's great value. 17th round, 198. He's at least going to put up what Hawkinson did last year, and that's 10 rounds later than where Hawkinson's going.
Right.
That's at least. I'm sure he'll put up even better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I don't see any way that Mercedes Lewis or Robert Tonyan takes like that tight end 1 role, just because they are. I mean, Mercedes Lewis has been a good pass catching tight end, but I feel like they're just more so in there for depth and for veteran leadership. But I really want to see this guy get his feet underneath him, and I want to see him work with Rodgers. So I'm excited for the Packers. Honestly, I was gonna text you today. Like, I am just so ready for the NFL to get started. I'm so pumped for this season. I feel like it's a great draft class, so I'm excited about that. But I just want to see how all these teams are gonna look come in the fall. So
yeah, a lot of new faces and new places, man.
Yeah, for sure.
But big faces too.
Yeah.
Like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So
Tampa Brady, that's what he coined his I think he put two different what do you call them? What do you call it when you like patents? He put two patents on. One was Tampa Brady, and the other one was Tampa Brady or something, or Tampa Bay and Tampa Brady. He put patents on those, so he owns the rights to like put on clothing and stuff.
Is such a 43-year-old dad. Dang. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so dumb.
Right.
What he's gonna make money off of it?
Yeah.
A
Someone
lot
buy.
of Buccaneer fans are gonna buy that stuff.
That's right. Well, let's wrap up this episode by giving our picks for how this division is going to fare. So we covered the Lions, we covered the Bears, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Green Bay Packers. I think. Do you want to start? Do you want to start bottom, or do you want to start 4, or you want to start number 1?
Let's just go bottom. Who's gonna finish last? I'll start. I think it'll be. It's gonna be Detroit.
Yeah, me too.
Or I hate that. I'm so sorry, Lions fans. I'm so sorry, Detroit fans. Detroit Tigers suck. Detroit Red Wings suck.
Yeah.
Detroit Lions suck. Michigan Wolverines suck.
Oh shoot.
But yeah, the Lions. Lions are last place for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I hope they get Okuda for Ohio State's sake at number 3 and for their defensive sake. But there's a lot of talent to go around in the NFC North, and I don't think that the Detroit Lions have the offensive line to put it together or to withstand the NFC North defenses. So I'll agree there with the Lions at number 4.
Number 4, yeah.
Okay, how about number 3?
Number 3. You go ahead, number 3.
I'm going to say Minnesota Vikings.
Same.
I say Minnesota Vikings at number 3.
Yes.
I think
same.
I think the departure of Stephon Diggs, I think it puts him a year out from being back towards the top. I think that 2021 first round pick that they got in return is going to be useful, but I think the departure of Diggs is going to be more noticeable than Viking fans might think, and I don't see them. I think the Bears are going to be improved with the pressure, and I just see them declining.
I agree, 100%.
Okay.
Honestly, I was debating between them and Detroit on the 4.
Okay. Well.
So,
yeah.
I don't think the 4 is going to be like 3-13.
No.
So
it's always fairly tight.
It's 6-10, 7-9. Like just lose a couple close games. All right, number 2, Chicago Bears.
Yep. I'm there as well.
I mean, the Packers have Aaron Rodgers and the Bears don't. I don't care about Khalil Mack. I don't care about Robert Quinn. I don't care about your defense. If you can't score points, you're not going to win.
Right.
And the Packers' defense was actually pretty dang good last year until they played the 49ers twice.
Yeah. Oh.
So, but I think the Packers have a chance. Like I told you the other day, I think the Packers have a chance to, win 13 games. Go 13-3 and have the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah.
So I think the Bears will possibly sneak in and get a wild card. Is that 7th team, that extra wild card, go into effect? Or is it next season?
I believe it is next season.
Okay. Either way, I think the Bears have a chance to sneak in a wild card, but yeah, Bears number 2. So
yeah.
And I don't see that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bears have a great defense. I mean, it blows my mind how the players that they get all the time, they're stacked, but it comes down to offense, and unless they make a really notable move in the draft to get another offensive stud, say at tight end, they got Jimmy Graham, but say at wide receiver, I think that offense wins championships. You saw it in the Super Bowl. They say it's defense, but offense wins the Super Bowls, and the Kansas City Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill lit it up against one of the best defenses in football.
Yeah.
So
if you have a good defense and a great quarterback, I will take that over a great defense and an average quarterback all day. The Packers have a good defense, potentially great. Honestly, they made a couple additions, and a great quarterback, like elite quarterback.
Yeah.
So That's it right there. That trumps everything.
Yeah. Yeah, so Packers number 1. That's our picks: Packers, Bears, Vikings, and Lions. We were in consensus there. I like that.
Yeah.
I like when you
Yeah.
think when you think I'm right.
Huh?
I like when you think I'm right.
Yeah, and if we look earlier, obviously Sebi, I don't think he's still here. But his comment was, "It's an interesting division. I really don't any team. I'm guessing probably I really don't have any team." It said he'll go with Green Bay, but Minnesota right there at number 2. So
There we go.
it seems like everybody's picking the pack, man.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we'll put a poll out there, see what the consensus is on the viewers, if they think Packers, Vikings, Bears, or Lions, but we shall see.
Yeah.
All right, well, where are we heading next, Anthony? The AFC East?
Yeah, let's do the East. Let's do
AFC
the
East, and then we'll go NFC East next week. So
Let's do it.
we'll be back early next week, which is in a couple days, and we'll cover the AFC East. Hopefully get a guest on there, a guest or two, and talk what could be a wide open division, and then we'll hop down midweek and talk Anthony's Cowboys, the Eagles, the Giants, and the Redskins, and hopefully get some good guests on there as well. But
Yeah.
Thank you guys for. Sorry, I thought you were about to say something.
No, I just was agreeing and saying yeah.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Couch Scouts podcast. If you like it, drop a comment, leave a review, follow us on Instagram. It helps us out a ton. Like, we're super thankful for you guys' support anytime we get a new follower or any comment on one of our posts or podcasts. We love it, and don't hesitate to ask questions if you have questions about what we covered today or what you want covered in future episodes. Go ahead and give us a shout out, and I guess we'll see you guys with the AFC East. Any last words, Anthony Bills?
No, sir.
All right.
Sir. Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right, guys. Peace out.